Good morning, everyone. Okay, I guess we'll go ahead and call this meeting to order. And first thing we should do is go ahead and get the minutes from November 1st approved. So I'll make a motion for that. Just need a second.
Second.
I'm assuming it's unanimous, so we're good.
Yes, sir.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks again for everyone being here. For those of you who may not know me, my name's Mark Wright. I'm an assistant public defender, and I was selected last time to be the chairman of this particular committee. I do appreciate the trust. It is an honor, and I first would like to recognize our former chairman, Director Bucci. The work and dedication that he committed is beyond commendable, and he's a dedicated and compassionate law enforcement officer. He's also a good person, and I think a great role model for young law enforcement officers. So I hope I can fill his shoes. I acknowledge that assistant public defender and public safety might be a contradiction in terms, but it's not. I think we all have the same interest here. We want a safe community, and the best way to ensure a safe community is that law enforcement have effective and efficient tools to do their job in a constitutional way, right? And I think being in a position that I'm in and knowing the numbers, I think Clay County is a relatively safe community, all things considered. But that's not to say we're just like every other community in the world. We've got individuals that commit crimes and become incarcerated, and many of those individuals need or have social and maybe psychological afflictions that may prevent them from succeeding. And I think that's the point and the purpose, or one of the purposes of this particular committee. After all, it is called the Public Safety Coordinating Council. So although the work that each one of us does may span the spectrum of the criminal justice system, we're a collective here. And the purpose is to make sure that our community is advanced and bettered by helping those who run afoul of the law. And my understanding of the statute is that the purpose of the formation of this committee is to assess the population of the jail, and that's to ensure that the facilities are not overburdened and exceeded, and then to consider recommendations that should alleviate those pressures while simultaneously improving the attitudes and the behaviors of those who are housed there. So logically, I think we should begin by Lieutenant Harwood has gracefully filling in for Chief Arnold, and if you could just advise us what the current population status is at the jail.
Yes, sir. Today's numbers are 386 total inmates. 87% of those are in for felony charges. 13% are misdemeanors. We have currently 88 sentenced inmates to the Clay County Jail, with 21 of those sentenced to Department of Corrections at this time.
And is there, or would you be in a position to give us an update on the expansion and remodeling progress of the jail, or is that something we probably should wait until?
Yes, sir. I can give you an update. So they have changed architects at the county. They have a new architect who is currently redoing the plans, reviewing the plans that have been submitted. They are currently revamping those plans, and I believe the last update is they're hoping to have those completed by April. And at that point, we can review the plans with the committee and determine whether we're going to move forward. And at that point, then hopefully construction can start within the next couple of months after that.
Oh, okay, that's fantastic. That's fantastic. I appreciate that, Lieutenant.
Yes, sir.
I mentioned a second ago that, actually a minute ago now, that there are a number of individuals in the jail that have afflictions that could potentially be addressed. And I think Ms. Atkinson is specifically qualified to address that. If Ms. Atkinson, if you don't mind, if you could approach the microphone there.
Morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Just a few things that I've been doing lately to help our residents. In November, we had a job fair. I had 9 vendors that attended the job fair. I had 44 inmates that attended and 22 females that attended, and there was a high percentage of them that had filled out applications for different jobs with different companies. I don't know how successful that was. I always ask for a follow-up from the inmates, but generally don't get it. Currently, right now, I'm really excited about this. I've had 8 inmates, 7 males and 1 female, pass the PowerPoint certification test. Their next test will be on Microsoft Word for their certification. 4 male inmates took 3 parts of the GED test and have passed. 2 of them are being tested today for the final portion of that test. 2 females were tested. 1 passed 3 portions of the test. The other one passed 1 portion of the test. Both of them have been released prior to finishing taking that test. Last quarter, I placed 8 inmates in various sober living facilities. To date, all have been successful except for 2. As far as the grant money for the Vivitrol program, I have not received that money yet. I reached out to see where the money is, and I was told that they haven't heard anything. I reached out to Tyler Nolan, and we started processing state IDs for inmates. Any questions?
What's a state ID? What do you mean?
Oh, I'm sorry. Just an identification card. I partnered with the tax collector's office. They come over with their machine and they do an ID for them. Or if their license, if they've lost their license, I'll replace that as well. Yes?
Last time, I think we had a discussion about the substance abuse dorms and peer specialists. Is there any kind of an update on that?
Well, that was going to be coming through the grant money for the Vivitrol program, and I have not heard anything about the money as of yet, like when I'll receive it. And like I said, I reached out to Tyler Nolan. He's my contact person, and he said he hasn't heard anything either. So, don't know where I am.
These are state funds or federal funds for the Vivitrol?
I think those are the funds that were from the settlement money from the, is it the
Opioids?
pharmacies, Dad? From the pharmacies, yeah.
Okay.
For the opioids, yes.
Do you know if Mr. Nolan needs any kind of assistance or from
A little
the committee here?
encouragement, maybe.
Okay.
I don't know. He's just the liaison person. So I'll reach out again to him and ask him who I can contact personally for that money.
Okay, yeah, and if he gives you any kind of an indication that it would be beneficial to have, someone from the committee here encourage that, then, let me know.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah,
Appreciate
no,
that.
Absolutely. That's why we're here. Then, lastly, about the reentry programs, I know there are a few, Vineyard, Operation New Hope, and I'm not sure if it's Barabbas. I know we discussed that last time, or may have been someone else that came up here and discussed that.
Sorry, I'm not familiar with that. I do not have Operation New Hope coming into the jail. Their Ready for Work program, the inmates have to go to their offices in Jacksonville and register for that program. When they were coming into the jail, they were teaching them things that my staff already teaches, like anger management, and thought process and things like that.
Okay, all right. Anybody have any questions for Ms. Atkinson?
I just had one question about the job fair. Is there a way that we could reach out to the employers to see if they were able to hire anyone?
I can absolutely do that.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, thank you so much.
Is,
Mr. Chairman,
yes, ma'am.
Taylor is here from the construction, from our construction department at the VOCC. If you had any additional questions, the lieutenant did a nice update on the jail renovation, but she is the project manager if you had any additional questions. Just wanted to give you that opportunity.
Oh, yeah, I mean, I don't want to put you on the spot there, but I mean, if you're okay with just approaching the microphone there and maybe just giving us a little more detail on the progress.
Hi, good morning. I'm Taylor Clever. I'm a construction manager for Clay County Facilities, and one of my projects is the jail project. We recently have gotten restarted with that project, and we're working with a new design team to complete that. Do you guys have these questions in specific?
What is the purpose of the project? Is it an expansion or is it just a remodeling or both?
Yep, so what the project is to do an expansion on both the second and third floors to increase the inmate areas.
Okay.
Yep, hopefully, I think the intent is to do, it's approximately 100 more beds, but I don't think we're gonna meet that number. I think it's closer to like 96 or 97, but it's approximately 100.
Okay. All right. Well, I appreciate that, Taylor.
Yeah, absolutely. The design is expected to be done around April, and then hopefully shortly thereafter we'll be continuing with the construction.
And how long do you think the construction will go? I know that that's fluid, but.
Yeah, so it depends on what avenues we have to go. There's a couple things that we have to take in consideration, and a lot of it is structural, but the intent is hopefully between 10, 12 months at the most.
Okay, so maybe by the end of the year, maybe?
Don't lock me down,
Oh,
but
no,
that's
no.
what we're hoping for.
Okay. I don't have any other questions unless someone else has any.
Are these just 100 more beds, or is any part of this project designed to capture maybe a specialty wing, or a medical wing, mental health wing that could be added, or is just, we just need 100 more beds?
Currently, it's just designed for 100 more beds.
All right. Thank you.
Yep, absolutely. Have a great day.
Let me answer part of that for you also. So out of the construction, the third floor is going to be a basic open bay dorm. I believe it's going to hold 76 or 78 beds. Now in a smaller section where our visitation used to be, there's going to be 24 beds there. There has been talk about possibly doing a mental health dorm. There's a possibility of being a first appearance dorm and repurposing another dorm. Obviously, we already have the veterans dorm. We've made some changes to our kitchen, so it's all staffed by contract employees. There should be no more trustees down there. So we're talking about possibly reusing one of those dorms for Miss Patty, for maybe Vivitrol or some other program that smaller dorm will fit for her. So it's just going to be a matter of the logistics of, once those dorms are built out, are they going to be appropriate enough for what program?
So when you say Vivitrol program, inmates that would stay there permanently that are getting administered that drug, or just a place to go to have that done and to meet with Saturdays and others in the...
So that would be a dorm that those inmates would stay in.
Okay.
That would be their permanent housing, barring any type of security issue or security concern. If they needed a higher level security, they would obviously go to confinement or one of our higher security wings. But the plan is to possibly use one of these smaller dorms for that, and those inmates would stay there together. We could possibly do the programs, the people that are going to come in and speak with them. They can do that right there in the dorm without removing them and taking them other places in the jail.
Thank you.
You mentioned a vet dorm?
Yes, sir.
Oh, all right, that sounds interesting. So it's a dorm, not to sound ignorant here about it, but just for military veterans?
Yes, sir. So they have to be a veteran to go into this dorm. I think right now, I believe we have 7 people in there. It can hold up to 20 people. So they get a little bit more privileges. We put a larger TV in there. They have their own book card assigned to their dorm alone. Obviously, the Operation Barnabas comes in and speaks with them once a week, and we do everything we can to help them with contacting the VA, those kind of things. But they also have military-style rules in there that do not apply to the other inmates. They have to conduct themselves as a military member as they would as they were in the military. They have to make their bunks. So there is some responsibility to it. But out of all the dorms in that jail, I think, Patty, was it 3-4 years ago, if not more, I have not had to repaint that dorm since the start of that because they take that good care of it.
It's fantastic.
So I've done zero maintenance in that dorm. No painting, they don't tear anything up, they conduct themselves properly. But if they don't, they're removed from that dorm and put back in general population.
Okay. So we hold each other accountable. Is there any charges, or is it exclusive, or if someone is charged with maybe an ultra-violent offense or that, are they still permitted in there?
Yes, sir. It's going to be based on their classification level. If their classification level is too high, they're not allowed in there. They'd have to go to one of our smaller dorms that are locked down at night, or they have to go to confinement. But we've had a couple people in there who's had some more serious charges. But as long as they're conducting themselves in a military bearing and they're following the rules, they're allowed to stay.
I like it. Appreciate it.
How do we identify that they are in fact a veteran? Is it something that's done during the intake process, or is it something they send a request to a CO to make sure that they can go to the veterans dorm? I'm just curious.
So they will contact Ms. Patty to let them know that they're interested in that particular program. But every veteran is identified if they're willing to tell us during the booking process. They're asked, are you prior military? What branch? What's your discharge? We even try to put their last duty station in there so that we know where they were last, their last duty station was.
Okay, so
And they're able to ask Ms. Patty, and we'll move them to the veterans dorm if they qualify based on their security level.
okay, that's actually I've never been actually in the booking process part, but I'm glad to know that we do ask that question right from the beginning, and we have that information. I say we as us as a collective whole. So
I have a question. Is there a way that if they're answering those questions in the booking process, that it can be noted on the arrest and booking for potential qualifications for Veterans Court? Just didn't know if there's a way that we could know that information up front.
Like a stamp on the,
Or just a line that marks, are you a veteran? Yes. I don't know if it's something that can be added.
I can answer that. Once they are identified as being a veteran, I give them a release form for their medical information for them to start benefits, and I also give them the application for Veterans Court. I can't make them fill out the paperwork. I hand out paperwork all the time, and sometimes I get less than half of it back. And then once I get it back, I scan it, and then I send it over to the court.
I know I don't want to talk about our neighbors across the river, but St. John's, and I'm not saying we need to do this, but one thing they do is every booking sheet that comes in, like Judge Whittington used the term stamp, every booking sheet, even that's logged into the clerk screen, everybody's copy, it has a red stamp that says veteran on it if they are in fact a veteran. So anybody that even in first appearance gets the first booking sheet, the first person to look at it, the judge, whoever, knows right out of the gate in big red letters that the person is a veteran. And of course that would help your office, or a checkbox, anything like that would help. But St. John's was the only one I remember seeing that had a process where everybody knew right out of the gate that the person was in fact a veteran. Very obvious that they were based on that. And I think it was done during their intake process. Like you were saying, Lieutenant, you guys are asking those questions, but I think Ms. Hazel can probably explain it better. She was just trying to make sure when they get their paperwork at the state, is there any way that they can identify a veteran quicker?
Well, we talked about creating a crystal report. So there's an automatic generated report that goes through the system every 24 hours and would actually kick out a report that anybody that is listed as a veteran, and that can be emailed to any of the offices or a standard email address, or we could do a stamp. Either one is a viable option.
That would be so helpful to us because we do have an intake type of division of filing attorney who makes very quick filing decisions. So if we knew on the arrest and booking docket they were a veteran, even if they haven't filled the paperwork out or gotten it to us yet, it would help us to identify this may be someone who's appropriate for Veterans Court, which then we could reach out to the public defender's office and say, is this something your client would be interested in? We'll hold this docket and not make a filing decision until we know if they want to do the program. That way we're not filing charges and then having them, it's delayed. Then they go into the first appearance and then we're hearing, okay, they're a veteran, they may be interested in Veterans Court. It may speed things up for us if we knew that the moment we get that arrest and booking sheet. I just didn't know if there was a way we could know that.
I can actually have that with her this afternoon if you'd like.
That would be amazing.
And I can put it in the policy. It'll take a few days, but I can get it put in the policy. But I can put out a memo, start stamping. Once I get that stamp, it'll be in red, and we'll stamp the top of the booking sheet if that would be okay.
That would be great.
Yeah, I think a red stamp just stands out, it's hard to miss.
Right.
Oh, I like that.
I'll
We
get
can
that.
give them credit, but
Sometimes in this room, speaking about that county, I'm not saying they do anything wrong, but just sometimes St. John's always gets brought up at times, and that's why my comment was there. Like I said, it was one of the only counties in my previous work that it was just abundantly clear. And that booking sheet, of course, stays with the case file forever. So anybody that ever pulls up the case, what are they going to do? They're going to read the arrest and booking sheet first, and boom, page 1 right there on the top right. It's just stamped veteran. I don't think Jacksonville was doing it, but Baker, Bradford, I just remember it specifically, St. John's was in fact doing it.
I can have that done this afternoon. Get it over.
Progress, results already. I just had a follow-up question with the remodeling and construction. We discussed it last time, you weren't here, so I'm not intending on putting you on the spot. The visitation area for defense attorneys to visit with clients is pretty bad right now. Is there plans for a more permanent space, more private space for that?
So I'm currently looking at, I just had discussions with Chief Arnold about possibly buying their soundproof pods. They'll have a table and basically a bench or 2 chairs. It's all of one piece. We've had to build those temporary rooms. These will be a little bit smaller. We're also going to be adding, because right now we only have 1 Zoom and we have an additional Zoom computer laptop. So getting a lot of the Zooms has been difficult. Because if somebody's on Zoom in the main room, then everybody hears it, and obviously we don't want that. So we're in the process of getting some iPads. They're going to be locked inside those individual rooms, and each one will have a Zoom. So I'll be able to do 4 Zooms at the same time if I need to, because they'll be in those individual booths. But the expense of that is I think it's like $35,000 per booth, and we might be able to get 4 to 5 in there and still maintain the first appearance Zoom setup for first appearance.
I know it varies, but do you happen to know how many attorneys at one time would be the highest average? How many booths would you possibly need? Would 2 be sufficient, you think?
We've had moments where we've had the request for Zoom and we've had 2 or 3 attorneys in there. I don't believe, right now we have 4 booths, and then you have the main room. So we could technically put 5 attorneys in there, but once again, if we're doing a Zoom over that, then everybody can hear that because the speakers are in the ceiling. So that kind of limits us, but that's why we're going to do the iPads. So then you do the individual Zoom inside the booth itself. So if there's attorneys that are visiting in person, Zoom can still continue. So it's going to alleviate that pressure a little bit.
Yeah, I imagine that, I'm speaking more for the private bench now, that, because we have a Polycom system, which is a miracle. But if the private attorneys have the same type access, then I think that would relieve a lot of the pressure for in-person visitation for them, I imagine.
So we're, next week we're going to start the install of our new inmate phone system. We're switching from Secures to combined public communications. One of the options that we're looking at, so each inmate's actually now going to be issued a tablet instead of a phone. We're going to remove the phones from this facility altogether because that tablet's assigned to that inmate. They'll be able to do everything they need to do, forms, visitation, phone calls. They have an option there for chirping, which is like text messaging. So they'll be able to text message their family from the cell block. Obviously, there's some security measures built into that I don't want to discuss. But we also are looking at the possibility of possibly being able to do, the attorneys can use that visitation aspect. It will not be recorded. All they have to do is provide their bar information to the company. Those visitations will be free, and they can have those discussions with their clients inside the cell block also, if that is an option they would like to pursue.
Okay. Sounds like the Department of Corrections is a little bit modeled after that. I appreciate it.
Yes, sir.
I guess we should move on. Is there anyone here who is willing to talk about the mental health at the jail, or is qualified to discuss that? Any kind of programs at the jail there?
I can fill in.
Yes, ma'am, I appreciate that.
My name is Margaret Pittenger, I'm the medical manager.
Hi, Ms. Pittenger.
Since our last meeting, our mental health counselor has gone to PRN, and now she's going to be a contracted person. We have hired a new mental health person, and I'm hoping she starts in March. 25% of the population is mental health. And she has done a really good job, but part-time's not going to cut it. So I turned one of my RN positions into an unlicensed social worker to assist her with the mental health population.
So an RN?
I changed one of my positions because of funding, the budget. So I had to give up an RN position to turn it into another position. And I made it an unlicensed social worker so it wouldn't exceed my budget. So I'm going to have 2 mental health people, one's licensed, one's not, to assist with mental health.
Okay, so juggling job titles to accommodate a budget
Yes.
deficit.
Yes. And I have something else to add.
Okay. Sure.
We have partnered with a company, Health Cred Care. They're in a lot of counties, and it helps inmates get insurance. So when they come in, they'll be screened for insurance, and if they get accepted, then those bills will not come to us anymore. The insurance company will pay for it. It's the Affordable Health Care Act. And when they get out of the jail, that insurance will follow them. They'll have insurance when they leave. Now, it doesn't help the homeless people who don't have a mailing address, but it'll help the other ones. So hopefully that will offset the cost in the jail and get them some, so when they leave, they have that care to continue on when they're out of the facility. Because typically, when they keep rolling back in, they haven't kept up with their care. We start all over again and get them all, started on their meds and everything else. They haven't continued that care. And a lot of those are the mental health people.
Yeah, that reminds me. When inmates first come into the jail, they usually don't have their meds in their pockets with them. So how does that process get started?
So there's 2 ways. I prefer to, if I can find out who the pharmacy is, just to call the pharmacy and get the list of their current medications. Sometimes they don't remember who filled their last medications, but if they know who their doctor is, we can get a release of information, get that signed and faxed over, and then we can get that information. As soon as we have a list of what meds they're on, we contact our provider to get those meds started.
Okay.
And then within 2 weeks, they're seeing our provider.
Okay. And then on the other end of that, when they're released, that's what you were just discussing, having them insured.
Right.
There's no way to ensure that they continue to take the medication, but at least that's a step.
We do give them their meds when they leave. Whatever's left, we like to give them a 3 to 7 day supply, but whatever's left on the card, if there's a 30-day supply on that card, we go ahead and give it to them.
Okay.
So they have that. This insurance will help them just continue the care. I mean, they still have to go to their appointments and make appointments, but this will help them, continue their care. Like, we have a lot of sick people at the jail right now. Cancer. If they get out of here in 2 weeks, that treatment stops once our fiscal responsibility stops when they leave. This will help them continue their care.
That's great.
What is the cost of that once they're released?
So it's the Affordable Care Insurance. So the form, basically when I'm filling it out, it's their projected income. If they don't have a job, can you get a job? What's your projected income? But they're going to have to get a job to pay a premium. But once they're if they're in the jail, there is no premium for them to pay, and they're still covered.
Is there a time that they've got to get a job before the premiums kick in once they're released?
I am not sure. This is very new to us. St. John's has it.
You know, that's the last time that word must be spoken. So.
You could say,
They've had their two.
Bradford has it. That's-
Bradford has it too. So does Columbia County. So a lot of companies are really jumping on board with this, and we're just getting started.
Well, I didn't know about that. I didn't know if you all or the state knew about that. It would be something good to know if somebody's going to be on probation, that they understand that and keep up with that.
This was something that the commissioners brought back from our Florida Association of Counties winter meeting. So we found out about it in December, or early December, I think it was, and brought it back. Bradford County reported at that meeting, they alone, just the sheriff's office paying for the health care of these inmates, had saved in just a very short period of time almost $500,000 in transport fees, taking some of these inmates to the hospital and getting emergency department kind of care for things that weren't, like, it wasn't a fight in the jail. It was, it were these very serious medical issues. This company was started by a deputy who had worked in the corrections and law enforcement field his whole career, and saw a need for counties to be able to provide health care and to keep. They had some statistics that said you see less. That if they are maintaining their health care and they have a relationship with a primary care physician instead of just going to the emergency room, for those kinds of things, they tend to become less frequent flyers on everyone's services.
Right.
So we brought it back, and we hope it will be beneficial.
Yeah, it's a good idea.
And I think they said the premiums were, some of these programs are like $35 a month, so it's not a, or 30, some of them are even free, if depending on what they qualify for, and under the Affordable Care Act. So not a huge burden to get a super high paying job. And then I think that they had said it was, so they'll sign them up and then that becomes their renewal date, and so they would then have the insurance for at least 30 days beyond that. So hopefully they're not released like right before when it has 7 days left or something.
Right.
We'll just enroll everybody that comes in. We'll see how it goes. Like I said, it's very new for us. We just had our meeting, but I'm just waiting for IT to get us all hooked up.
And it is free to the county.
Yes, it doesn't cost the county a dime.
I think that maybe some information could be brought to at least the public defender's office to educate your clients that this is an option. You've heard about it.
Yeah.
This is something you need to follow up with.
Yeah. It was just began last month.
This month.
This
Well, I had to wait for the agreement to be signed,
Sure.
so it's been sitting over there for a couple of months. Once the agreement was signed, we got started. So we had our meeting with them. They briefly showed us how to do it. I've already signed up one who I know is going to cost the county a lot of money. Already got him signed up. I'm just waiting to hear, because if you enroll them 1 month, it's not approved, or it doesn't start till the following month. So I should find out next week whether he got approved or not.
Oh, good. Would you mind sending me an email, just with the progress of that? Or?
Sure.
Okay.
Yes, I will.
Just now learning about it, I think that's a great program.
Yeah, I do some FMJS audits, and I've taken that with me just so other counties who are less fortunate than we are can have that information as well. Because that's how I found out about it. I'm not going to say the county, but that's where my husband works, and I used to work there too, so I do have connections over there. And just helping out other counties, because the cost of inmate care is just astronomical.
Sure. Yeah.
I'll send that to you.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And this is on the record. We're not above any other county. We can learn from them. They can learn from us.
That's correct.
Okay. Well, I think I would open the floor. It doesn't look like there's anybody out there that may have any questions or comments.
Yes,
You do?
ma'am.
Yes, ma'am, absolutely.
Good morning.
Morning.
I'm Kia Mills. I'm the office manager for Clay County Probation here, and I just wanted, we spoke when the meeting first started about what we're doing to reduce, the jail population and help with public safety. So one of the programs the Department of Corrections has is called Face It, where probationers come back to the probation office outside of usually normal business hours, and they get re-instructed on their conditions of supervision. That way they can understand what resources are in the community, what their special conditions are. Sometimes, when they do their intake process and they go home, they're either mad because they got sentenced or hungry, or even the probation officer really didn't give them the information they deserve. So they come back and it's a more extensive intake. So they'll know exactly what's required of them, what their needs are, and what we expect from them. So that should reduce jail population, because we realized people were violating their probation within the first 90 days because they really didn't understand the requirements of probation. So we started the program so they can get a full understanding of what their requirements are, and hopefully it reduce, again, our violation reports, reduce the jail population, and getting them back, into society as law-abiding citizens. So I just wanted, you guys to know that that's what the Department of Corrections is doing. And we're also working with, you mentioned Operation New Hope. I've worked in Jacksonville, so I know it's big in Jacksonville, the Operation New Hope program. And we have been trying to contact them to hopefully come to the probation office to help with housing, because I know there's no homeless housing available here. So try to coordinate them to come in Clay County so we can get some of our persons who are on probation or are homeless offenders to coordinate with Operation New Hope. So the Department of Corrections is definitely doing our part to help reduce offenders' population. Okay. Do you have any questions for me?
Well, it's first I'm hearing of Face It.
Mhm.
So I know exactly where you're coming from. And I appreciate that. I think some of the clients do too, because you're right. When they're released and placed on probation, their focus isn't exactly where it needs to be. It needs to be reoriented in their first period, right,
Exactly.
of probation. So I think it's a good idea.
And I did have a question, if I can, as far as for the jail. I know you mentioned the iPads that they want to get. Would Department of Corrections have access? Because I know we do a lot of communication, like paperwork needs to be signed or intake, where we forgot to do something during our first visit, and then we have to go back and get a re-instruct. Would we be able to have the same access to contact the inmates who are going to be on probation?
So there is going to be, like I talked earlier about the attorneys being able to contact their clients, there's supposed to be a signature portion to that. So that is a possibility that we can get you added, that we'll have a point of contact. You can send that information and we'll get it uploaded to that account. And then they'll be able to electronically sign it from their little tablet, and then be able to forward it back.
Thank you.
All right. Well, I think that should do it, unless Judge
Yeah,
Whittington.
I've got a question. You mentioned there's 22 inmates that are sentenced to DOC.
Yes, sir.
I know, I've heard from somebody recently, maybe Chief Arnold or Director Bucci, that the Department of Corrections has picked up your efficiency in taking inmates out of the jail and putting them in prison. Is that still the case? And if not, what can we do, if anything, to make sure that they're not lingering any longer than necessary in the jail before they're actually transported?
So I don't know the exact number today. I didn't talk to the transport unit, but we were talking last week. Because of the inclement weather we had, they had to cancel one of their transport runs. And I think we were going to take 5 or 6 that day. So they got added on. We took 5 this past week. So I think right now, out of that 21, I think there's 9 that's ready to go from their initial sentence. Some of these are inmates that are sentenced to DOC that are back on some type of appeal. And we're waiting, like right now I know there's one we're waiting on a transport order. This person's requested to go back because their evidentiary hearing is in the summer and they want to go back to
Well,
DOC.
yeah, I think that's our case. I just want to do what we can to make sure that they're removed as quickly as possible. I know it's a state issue, but if there's something that this committee could do, happy to look into that.
I think right now we've worked out some of those issues that we've had, and they're allowing us to bring more than 5 a week. But just this week I think we only had 5 ready to go. So, and it was that original group that got canceled. So
Sure.
some of us were waiting on packets, and like I said, some of them they're here on appeal, and we're just waiting for a transport order to take them back to
Right.
Casey.
And you said packets, that's coming from the clerk, from the judge.
Yes, sir.
Is that a problem, or are those getting done timely?
From what I understand, right now, they're being done in a timely manner, and they're coming through like they need to be.
All right, well, because if they stop doing that, you let me know.
Yes, sir.
So you
Absolutely.
can try to address that. I don't want to be the problem to be on our end.
Yes, sir. I certainly will.
All right. The other thing I wanted to say, the chief judge and I are scheduling a tour of the jail, hopefully within the next 2 weeks. I think February 10th is what we're targeting. It's one of his statutory requirements to, in his case, to visit the 3 jails in the circuit with some regularity. We had talked about doing that with this committee. I was thinking, should we combine that visit? I think maybe it's better to do it separately, but maybe between now and our next meeting, we could schedule a time for this committee to have that same tour. There's a jail certification, I guess, person that works at the jail that could maybe head that up, and
Yes, sir.
we could find some time in the morning or an afternoon. I'd like for us to go see that, put our eyes on it.
I believe Lieutenant Whidden, who's our
That's the
accreditation
name,
manager,
yes.
he's going to be providing the tour for you, but I can also provide a tour at any time. I'm there usually Monday through Friday if I'm not covering a shift, and I'd be more than happy to walk everybody through and give them a jail tour.
What's
Because I can also provide the historical facts from the jail, because this upcoming expansion will be my 2nd expansion at the Clay County Jail, and I know a lot of historical facts as a result of the first expansion that I learned that I use in those jail tours, so that people understand. Like most people don't understand, the base of that building was built in 1972. We did
Right.
an addition in 1988, another addition in 2000, started in 95, ended in about 2000, and we're about to start another one, so.
Absolutely, I think that's good for us to know. So do we know when our next meeting is?
I think it's April 25th.
Oh, well, we should
It'll
definitely.
be, yeah, it'll be
set-
end of April.
Yeah, well, let's plan on all of us walking over there.
Sure, absolutely. All right.
Did you do your vice chair selection?
Oh, I'm sorry?
Your vice chair selection?
Oh, yes, we do need to select a vice chair. And I would ask if there are any volunteers.
I can do it if you need me to. Chairing meetings is something I just do.
I think that's thank you.
You're
Yes.
welcome.
I second.
Sorry, I was not
That was
on
easy.
I wasn't on the microphone. Eric, did you get that? Okay.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Sure, no worries.
Do you want to know what the job entails?
I know. Vice chair is the best chair.
Yes.
Very rarely are you called upon to chair.
He will likely never miss a meeting.
All right, well, if there's no other business, then.
Everybody just has to agree to that. You
Yeah,
have to do
is
it like
everybody-
an actual vote on it.
Okay, all right. Does everyone concur with the selection of the vice chair?
I agree.
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
I agree. It's unanimous.
Well done. Thank you.
All right, I guess it's adjourned. Do I hit this thing now?
You just have to open your public comment. Statutorily, you have to open the actual public comment that's on the agenda, and then you can just close it back since nobody's here.
Okay, so I just open it up to the floor for any public comment? Okay, and that's what I'm doing now. Is there any public comment? I don't see any.
Hearing none, you just close it
Hearing
and then
none.
you adjourn.
We are adjourned.